all for being here. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us, and especially coming to the remote site here at the university, and I'd like to thank the university for hosting us as well and making this great room available to us. It looks like we don't have any sound system, so everybody's going to have to project voices so that it can be heard, and then Matthew can pick us up over the internet. I'd like to introduce our board here, in case there's anybody here you don't know. We have Mike Burke and Shannon Sedgwick Davis and Vanessa Hurd, and on the internet there is Matthew Randazzo from the great city of Dallas. I assume that's where you are today. So that is our Texas board presently, and we will call this meeting to order at 10:07, Tamika. And I want to begin by remembering our colleague Dea Benke, who is known to many of you. She's our Vice President of Advancement, and she's not with us today because her brother Sean Woodward passed away just several days ago after a very, very tough and courageous battle. And so we want to remember her with a moment of prayerful silence. Thank you. Dea, we are with you, and we look forward to getting you back in the fold here soon. At the end of this year, our two San Antonio headmasters of our initial schools here, Mr. Peter Crawford and Andrew Chabone, who are here with us today, are moving on to new opportunities. One to lead a different school, and another to go acquire a PhD, both I believe in the city of Washington, D.C. And so we want to thank them and honor them for their service. And Mr. Burke has brought a memento for both of you, Peter and Andrew. And so we're gonna present those to you in honor of your time with Great Hearts. I just want to say before passing it on to Mike and any of the other board members that both Andrew and Peter have been critical parts of Great Hearts' arrival in Texas and the establishment of the schools in Texas, which is such a very, very, it's easy to say now that it's up and running, that it was no big thing. It always looks easy in retrospect, but it's never easy to start a new school. And for Great Hearts, it was especially challenging because we were leaving our original operating theater of Arizona and coming to Texas, and there were so many moving parts there around so many different things that I couldn't begin to even describe it to all of you. And we would never have achieved the success that we have had here without all of you, of course, but equally without Peter and Andrew. So we thank you both for the work that you've done here in furtherance of family life in San Antonio and the education of its children. So thank you both.
Very sad about your leaving. I'm so glad that we can take this opportunity and so many people show our deep appreciation mean, at the end, it's the teachers with the kids, but you're leading that initiative. You've done it ever so well, for the right reasons. Very, very few negative thoughts coming from you guys, or complaints. Just head down, doing your work. Peter, what you had to deal with, balancing that facility, and did it so incredibly well. You developed a relationship with major religious groups. So I know our other board members want to say a few words too, so I won't take up our time because we've got a lot to talk about this morning. So thank you both so much. In a minute, we'll present you with a token of our appreciation. But I'll turn it over to you.
Is mine. Mr. Burke, Ms. Davis, just please speak up. We're having a hard time hearing all the way from the back.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay. Yeah, I'm never accused of being quiet, so I think you guys will be able to hear me back there. No, just to echo what Mike and Jay have said, we are tremendously grateful for you both. In our meetings, when we would celebrate the successes each year of what we were launching here with Great Hearts, Texas, you both were always the centerpiece of what we celebrated. And so I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. You've made us so proud, and we're so grateful that you chose to invest years here and creating something special and a beautiful foundation that I'm excited to see built upon. So thank you both very much.
Good morning, and I just wanted to say briefly, having seen school start up for many, many minutes, there is no tougher work. Really no tougher work. And there is a well-established philosophy and curriculum for Great Hearts. It's still, at the end of the day, just the toughest thing to do. So thank you both for doing it with such diligence and grace, and really, relatively speaking, to see where Great Hearts is when you think about startups, even in other CMOs, it's extraordinary what you've both accomplished on behalf of these families and many more. So thank you both.
Matthew, can you hear us? Would you like to say a couple words?
I can. You know, I think in education there's two camps. There's those that argue it's all about the teacher that makes the biggest difference, and there's others that argue it's really about school leadership. And what's so remarkable about our headmasters and our leadership teams at Great Hearts is they have both a teacher's heart and a servant's heart. And I think that's what makes, frankly, makes the magic on behalf of kids and students throughout the network. So thank you both for your service and for everything you've done on behalf of San Antonio families.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Matthew.
We'd love for you guys to come up. We've got a gift that Mr. Burke will explain, and I'll do the
He's going to
Yeah,
give
we
you
were
this
trying to
gift.
think of
and
something that would be very appropriate and very meaningful to you, to help you remember San Antonio. And many of you might agree that it's hard to find a more appropriate that kind of gift than from Garcia Art. They do fabulous artwork with glass, and by the way, they're celebrating their 20th year, so if you don't mind opening the gift, take a look at it, and then we're going to take it away from you because we want to personalize it and mail it to you. While they're opening, at the point of interest, usually those folks work, if they're down on Alamo Street, across the United Way, if you don't know where they are. But they usually work from 7 to 4. This coming next few days, they're going to start working at 3 and end up at noon because of the heat.
just a little something to remember San Antonio and all of us guys.
Thanks again.
Now Mike wants it back.
Is this on? Can you all just help me?
Yes.
thank you one more time, Peter and Andrew, and best of everything to you in your new pursuit. I just want to make a few brief opening remarks before we move into the agenda. And again, I'm so grateful that you are all here and that you are all engaged in the school communities that you represent here for Great Hearts. That is, along with the faculty and the heads of school, that is also a critical linchpin of everything that Great Hearts is able to achieve. It's all about the families who come and make the communities of learners that we try to build and sustain. And so your viewpoints about that are not only welcome, they are craved, they are honored. I especially want to thank everyone who has sent correspondence to the board in recent weeks. Even though I have only responded to those very sparsely, I have read them all and pondered them all very carefully, as I think all the board members have done. I just don't like communicating via email, so that's why most of you have not heard anything back from me. I think I also speak for the board when I say that I am available to you to speak, and I will make time on a future trip to San Antonio to set up time with any of you to speak about any events recently or anything to do with Great Hearts Academies. Because I learn immensely from those conversations, and sometimes I'm able to share things with people. I am the founding chairman of Great Hearts. We began this organization 15 years ago now, and in reality, 17 years ago, we started taking the first steps toward beginning the organization. And so we have been at it with one purpose in mind all along, which is to create world-class educational opportunities for students in the classical liberal arts, in which they can develop not only their minds, but as the name implies and as the name was chosen with great intention and design to signify the development of their hearts. And so that is our purpose. That will always be our purpose. There will be no wavering from that purpose. There will be no moving off its core tenets, its mission, so long as those of us who created the organization are here. That simply cannot happen. I just want you all to understand that coming straight from me, and I will be happy to unpack that with all of you, anytime, anywhere, but it's important for me to say that at the outset of this meeting. So with that, I will sit down, and the meeting is going to consist pretty much entirely of your comments and then a report from the superintendent. We have dedicated this time, and we'll try to keep it within 2 hours, but we can go a little beyond that if we absolutely have to. But we want to respect people's time, and we don't want people to feel like they're missing anything. And we do have some parents who have to leave to go pick up kids at an early dismissal. So that's our goal and our objective. So with that, I will sit down and I will ask for a motion to adopt the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? No. The ayes have it. Thank you, Matthew. And now I will ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda, which is the approval of our minutes for March 29th and of our 2018-19 school calendars. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Now, I will tell you all, since we just had a brief note of history, back in the early days of Great Hearts, the adoption of school calendars was really quite controversial. We had all kinds of interesting things develop around that process for a long time. So it's really remarkable that all just happened so quickly. All right, now that takes us to the main part of our meeting, which is our call to the public. And I think there's been a preordained list of folks who are going to come up and share their thoughts with us, and we're going to try to hold that to 3 to 5 minutes. so that we can keep moving, and we'll give you a high sign about that, but we're not gonna be tyrannical about it. But we ask that you not be overreaching about it. And so we'll get through our list of speakers and then have time to conduct the rest of the meeting. Just a couple of quick things. We all must honor the Texas Open Meeting Law. Great Hearts is a public body in this regard. And so we ask that to respect privacy. There's no mention of specific students or teachers by name. And we just want to remind everyone also that we're not allowed to discuss anything at this board meeting under the open meeting law that wasn't posted as part of the agenda. So we go through a lot of legal counsel and process to make sure that we comply with all the legal requirements wherever Great Hearts operates. That's part of our existence, and the open meeting law is a very significant part of that effort. So with that, we will begin our call to the public. And the first person that I have on my list is Rebecca.
Mr. Hyler, if we can get the microphone over here.
Yeah. We take that there. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Can everyone hear me? Hello. Greetings to everybody
Milk it out,
I don't
Rebecca.
talk in public ever. ever. So I'm a little bit nervous and shaky, but I am here because I care about my school. I had a speech and it was way too long, so I'm going to try to just pray and wing it and tell you exactly my experience. I have a senior who's graduating. We are one of the families at Great Hearts. The classical education that my kids have received has been phenomenal. I know that in great part to the headmasters and of course the teachers, the staff who are here. We couldn't have done it without the great classically trained teachers that we have. One of my biggest concerns, I'm sort of going to get to the point, is that in my small group meeting with Mr. Kendall, after the coffee, he was talking about great expansion of the school and fast, and that he was going to open up the school to hiring practices well beyond what we normally do during a classical education. My concern with that is frankly that he may not understand the understanding of how to teach a classical education. If you have a child and they're sick, you take them to the doctor, you take them to the pediatrician, and you want them to get the best practice that they can. But instead you get an intern who's actually doing dermatology, and he's doing his first month. After his first month, he's done 1 month of pediatrics, and he's the one seeing your child. That was what the basic gist that I understood from Mr. Kendall was, is that we will open it up to a great amount of people in order to expand Great Hearts quickly. And then at the end of the day, what we'll do is we'll take those teachers who don't have classical educations and we'll teach them for 1 month. And then they'll be ready to go to teach classical education. That is a major concern, considering that most of us here understand what a classical education is and what it takes to teach a classical education. I'm not going to go through bullet points there, but it does speak to me very much that Mr. Kendall doesn't quite understand, although he's a very kind person and I've enjoyed his company. Honestly, I've met him, I think, either in person or in talks 3 or 4 times, accidentally, most of them. He was passerby at schools. But I do want to reiterate the fact that if we don't have classically trained teachers, we're not going to get the same amount of, the caliber of students coming out of our schools. It's kind of like if you have a great bottle of wine, it's aged, it's beautiful, it's wonderful, and you go to a party. You can't share it with everyone right away. If you do, then you're going to have to pour water into it, and it's just going to get watered down into something that seems like vinegar. And nobody wants to drink vinegar. So I would say, in my own personal opinion, having seen what my eldest daughter, who's a senior, become, it's a becoming. It's something that you go through, and you're inspired by the teachers. They mentor you. They make you. They speak the values to you, and you're mentored by these teachers. Then, if at the end of the day, they instead just had vinegar, instead they wouldn't be able to go out into the fold, go out into society, be able to preach to a classical education, and then bring it back to Great Hearts. There are quite a few seniors who are very interested because of their mentorship in coming back to Great Hearts and teaching. So I would ask in that realm that you consider that. The other thing that I really would ask you to ponder is that we've had 4 headmasters this year in lead. We had Mr. Chavone, Mr. Crawford, Mr. Dunnick, and Mr. Ortiz. 2 of them right after headmasters college. Our attrition rate here in Texas, praise be to God in the great state of Texas, is not very high. We've had all 4 of them for 4 years, so they far surpass the 2.5 average years that we were given as an excuse as why they were leaving. I'm not trying to diminish your answers. I'm just trying to say, if you think logically and you use reason, you can just see that there's something wrong there, especially given the fact that we have teachers who had to write a letter to get the attention of the board. They have spoken, they've written letters, they signed the letters. Almost every single teacher, I think 25 out of 27 signed that letter. 2 of those people, I don't think, one of them is a Spanish teacher who's not coming back, and the other I'm not sure. So the great majority, 25 out of 27 people, wrote a letter to the board and were ignored for 2 whole weeks. These are our treasures as parents. These people take care of our children every single day, day in and day out, when they skin their knee, when they're having a rough time at school, when they're just simply trying to do their job in the classroom. These are the bare bones and treasures of our school, and they have been treated not like treasure, but like trash. And I would ask that you please listen to these treasures. If you think that you can expand Great Hearts fast and furiously, and this is how you treat the teachers that you have, I don't quite understand what your philosophy is at Great Hearts.
Thank you. Thank you, Rebecca. Next we have Brandy and Steve Anderson. Welcome.
All right, thank you. First I want to say thank you to Rebecca, and I concur with and support everything she said. Good morning. My name is Steve Anderson. My wife Brandy and I are the parents of 3 Great Heart students, 2 at one campus and 1 at the other. All of my comments today are going to be directed towards Mr. Kendall, Superintendent. And due to time constraints, I'm going to lead with my bottom line. The recent assignment issue that led to Mr. Thomas's suspension has convinced me and many others, many of whom are in this room, that you are not up to the task of leading this school into the future. Every response from you and the leadership team thus far has been delayed, bungled, confusing, and generally wholly unsatisfying to me as a parent. You were surrounded with professional communicators, and the best you could do was to immediately agree that the school was in the wrong, suspend the teacher, and rapidly gather up all those dangerous textbooks. You allowed one parent with an agenda to steer you and the school. That aside, my focus today, my worry really is your next steps. Where are we going with the future? What are your next steps whenever those may or may not occur? There's been no response to the feedback cards that we submitted as parents at the parent meeting. I understand that you don't like to communicate via email, but I would encourage you to reconsider that, because most of us don't have the opportunity to meet with you all in person. I can't speak for everyone, but I have not received a response, but I'm presuming most parents have not either. Why did you meet with parents in the first place before you met with your own faculty? I'm wondering about that. I'm very concerned that I've seen no plans or even a discussion from you regarding how the next issue will be handled. And trust me, there will be a next issue. All you need to do is send a photo or an email to a newspaper, and I can get you to do pretty much anything I want. Which brings me to my next point. At the parents' meeting, you stated that once this issue hit the national news, you lost control of the process. Sir, I contend that you never took control of the process. You gave up all control, and you lost any opportunity you had for a measured response with that initial knee-jerk response. What I would like to know, had that parent not sent the email to the press and to Joaquin Castro, would your response have been any different? Do you have any regret for that initial response at all? Is there any intent on the school's part to retract anything that was said in that initial response? When, sir, will you begin to focus on the future? When and how will you begin to repair the damage and the lost trust that you've created with both the faculty and the parents? You've said the right things, but so far we've seen very little action. What is your plan to respond to future issues? When will you describe in more detail your desire to greatly expand these hiring practices? What exactly does that mean? Will we as a parent body be able to be privy to that? I and many others am frustrated and unhappy with the continued lack of communication. You acknowledged at the parent meeting that communication was handled poorly, and in your own words, we're not good at PR. Yet, so far, I can't see anything that has changed. The continued ignoring of the faculty and the parents concerns me. Ignoring of the faculty and the parents' concerns tells me that you have no intention of doing anything different, and we can expect much of the same response for the next issue that comes up. So I want to thank you for the time today, and I'll finish where I started. I cannot see a place for you in the future of this school, and I challenge you to prove me wrong. Thank you.
I just have one quick statement. I want to convey why the damning statement was sent out immediately. We're so young. And basically the statement not only impugned the dignity and professionalism and character of the teacher, it also impugned the dignity and integrity of the students in that classroom. Because in agreeing that the assignment was something that it was not, you made them complicit to a lie. And that damned their character and integrity as well. So if you want to know why people were upset, that's why. Because you made us party to this. You drew the line, you made a statement, and if we disagreed, then you basically placed us on the other side of the line. So just wanted to give that perspective and let you know that I think there's a lot we need to come back from and a lot of damage in this school here. The students, faculty, and parents. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Alyssa?
Good morning. I too would like to affirm what Mrs. Grenache and Anderson said. We are a founding family at both Monte Vista and Northern Oaks. And also are concerned that Mr. Kendall does not understand the fundamentals of what makes Great Hearts Great Hearts. We are not merely a school choice family. We were actually fairly happy at our neighborhood public schools until we stumbled upon Great Hearts and its classical curriculum. What we love, what drew us, was the deeply committed and talented teachers and administrators, the intentionally chosen and very rich curriculum, which, by the way, our girls would not have access to. They were considered gifted at their public schools, so they would not have access to this level of education. We're also drawn to the very intentional teaching methods and the high standards for discipline. Mr. Kendall has made it clear that he doesn't know who we are. He doesn't understand that these things are fundamental in why we have all chosen Great Hearts. We didn't choose it because our kids got kicked out of public school or because we wanted to take our money away from our neighborhood schools. It was because we intentionally chose this curriculum, this culture, this style of teaching, the discipline, all of it. We chose it very intentionally. So I want to let you know that as a school who teaches our kids virtue, right? We intentionally teach morals. We don't say, you decide what's true. We say, there is truth, right? There are morals to be upheld, and we can find them in the great books. As a school who teaches virtue and morality, can we have somebody who doesn't have honesty leading our schools? Mr. Kendall has lied to me personally twice. So I appreciate that he called me on the phone when I raised concerns. I was able to chat with him at a coffee chat. He assured me both times very eloquently that he was not here to change our schools. And then the very next day said that they would be changing hiring standards to make our faculties more diverse. Well, board members, my kids aren't white, they're immigrants. My oldest daughter started Great Hearts as an English language learner. And she has risen to the high standards that have been set before her. We didn't put her in Great Hearts so she would have teachers that looked like her or that talked like her. And they have loved her and molded her into a critically thinking, articulate, and intelligent young woman. And she wouldn't have that opportunity if we had kept her at our, by the way, very good public high school. And we are actually pretty offended that you would think she needs teachers who look like her. That instead of choosing teachers, as I know our headmasters have over and over, choosing the best possible teachers who either come from a classical background, or I know Headmaster Keffer at Northern Oaks has had to hire teachers who don't come from the tradition, but are willing to jump headlong into it, as my husband and I have. We don't come from this tradition. I'm a communications major. All the athletes were. My husband's a PE major and a coach. But as soon as we learned about this level of education that was available to our kids, we jumped headlong into it. So I don't pretend that we have to only hire teachers who are classically trained. We can hire teachers who are willing to immerse themselves in it, as Mr. Kindle has showed us that he's actually not. But please, 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 do not demean my minority children by thinking that they need teachers who look like them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Tim and Rachel?
I think it'll just be
And
Tim.
Rachel, or
Yeah,
Tim?
just Tim.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me address you. Thank you for your service on our board. I'm a parent of 4 Great Hearts students. I love Great Hearts. I love what they have gained through Great Hearts. My son is a senior now. He started when the school opened. It's been a phenomenal experience. And so I'm here in support of the teachers. I'm just reminded of the very first months of school where I was ferrying kids back and forth to football practice, as most parents have done at different times, to different events. And I asked one of the other students who had been in other public schools and even charter schools, what's different about Great Hearts? And I really thought he was going to talk about the classical education, and it's kind of tough, and then maybe take Latin. But what he said was, the teachers really care. The teachers really care. They love me. I just went to the senior appreciation. He didn't say they love me, he said they really care. He said they really care. I just went to a senior appreciation dinner. It was phenomenal. They said it was too long. I thought I could have stayed all night. Every student was addressed by their faculty advisor, charged personally. Every student heard words of encouragement, and you could tell that those advisors knew these students. They spoke to their character, they spoke to their performance, they spoke to their challenges. And that same student that said they really cared, his faculty advisor was in tears over the challenges that he's faced, the man he's become, and his future. Our teachers love our students. And there's an old saw that says those that can do and those that can't teach. That's a lie. That's not true. Our teachers are phenomenal. I have to think about what they're saying when I talk to them. Sometimes I'm like really challenged to keep up in conversation, which may not be a big deal to some, but it's hard. But they care. They're excellent. They love our students, which is why I'm so troubled by Mr. Kimball's response to them in leadership through this real controversy that needed an excellent handling and didn't get it. So I think the teachers' words, I would like them to speak for themselves. I'm in receipt of 3 letters that the teachers have sent to the board. I'm going to read just a brief portion of some of them. The first letter that was sent on April 26th says, in part, we are distressed by the immediate apology issued by Great Hearts, Texas on Thursday, April 19th, and we fear that some of the wording of this communication was chosen out of political expediency. The present situation, which has been fueled and amplified by social media outlets, is a real disruption for us, and we are sincerely concerned for ourselves, for our future as educators in the Great Hearts Network. That was a heartfelt 2-page letter signed by 25 or so of the faculty, almost unanimous. And they got no response. They got no care. I believe a superintendent is to superintend, to shepherd, to steward the school, the teachers, and the students. They didn't get a response. So they write again on May 14th, and they said that we have received total and an unacceptable silence in answer to our heartfelt communication. And I know the board has received these letters and have read over them. This is serious. These are our resources. These are not our resources. These are our friends and compatriots in raising our kids. And they do a great job, and they deserve a response. They deserve, why did they have to write a letter? They should have been able to make a phone call and someone come in and let's have a meeting, let's talk, I'm behind you, we're gonna get through this. This is what we're gonna do. They didn't get anything. And of course, any person is going to feel, well, if I'm not hearing from this person, they must not be behind me. Our teachers make sacrifices to teach our kids. They don't get paid a lot of money. They're bright people. They could do other things, but they love the classical education and they love our kids. And I want to close with a letter that I received about 10 minutes before I came here. It's probably in your emails. I printed out a copy so I could just read from it. And it discusses when Mr. Kimball finally did have a meeting with them, how they interpreted that and what they felt like. And this is what they said. While this meeting was a welcome gesture towards community, we nonetheless found much of what was communicated to us to be concerning. While pleasant in tone, it served to confirm rather than diminish perceptions that we had gathered from events throughout the academic year. As a faculty, we were dissatisfied and even annoyed by the obviously handled, by being obviously handled through the use of pleasant phrasing and buzzwords. We were repeatedly and overtly praised by individuals who do not even know us and do not even know what we do in the classroom. We were out-talked and outlasted under the guise of an open conversation. And I would say that was my experience in the coffees, that I was out-talked and outlasted, but not given any real answers, not really heard. Lip service was paid to the Socratic method and to the stability of our curriculum, which, however, might undergo revision depending on the demographics of a given academy, we eventually learned. Most undermining to the trust required in our relationship, there were moments of clear dishonesty at worst, or intentional half-truths at best. We do not wish at this time to broadcast the most significant instances of dishonesty or near dishonesty. We also acknowledge that some of the things communicated to us by leadership were done so candidly and were likely hoped to be kept in confidence. While we do not believe we have the right to full disclosure from our leadership and accept answers that declare we do not have the liberty to disclose, the level of dissembling that this meeting exhibited is beyond what we consider professionally acceptable. And I just joined the teachers in their response. I joined the other parents in their response. We can have disagreement. We've got to have disagreement. We've got to have real dialogue. But what we can't have is dishonest conversation and agendas that aren't brought out. And so for that reason, I truly believe, though you may be a very nice man, Mr. Kendall, I don't think you're the man to lead our school forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Andrew and Millie?
You have to guess which one I am. I just want to briefly say thank you to the board. I've not met any of you before. Appreciate you. Appreciate what you created here. It's beautiful, and that's why we're a part of it and why we're here, because we're passionate about it. A group of parents did send a letter to the board here and the executive leadership on Sunday evening. Now over 50 families have signed that letter, representing over 136 Great Hearts students at Monte Vista and Northern Oaks. And I continue to get letters from people that want to add their name to it. I'm not sending you multiple emails with all those. I'll wait till the emails stop coming, and then I'll send an update with all the names on it so you can have those. And I appreciate Tamika very much. Give her a raise. She's wonderful. I wanted to speak briefly about truth. Truth is valuable. It is good. It is beautiful. Many of us have thrown our lot in and trusted our children with great hearts because of the love for truth that is evident in the teachers and headmasters that we have come to know and to love. And we really do. I have never loved teachers like I have loved my kids' teachers these last 3 years at Great Hearts. Our popular culture... and Headmaster Crawford as well. Our popular culture is ruled by relativism. That's the truth. Truth is seen as subjective, pliable, unimportant. One part of the Great Hearts culture that parents and students quickly become familiar with is the ban on all things pop culture. Inside the halls of our academy, students are called to focus on the great works that have provided the foundation for our society. They learn the beauty of art and poetry. They learn the importance of character. They learn truth. They learn to love the truth, to live it, to share it, to argue for it, to defend it. And the difference between our graduates and those of other institutions, as good as they are, the difference could not be more striking. Unfortunately, many of us have noticed a striking difference between our schools, our teachers, our students, and our upper leadership in the district office. I've heard many parents remark, just like me, that they assumed that our superintendent lived in Dallas or somewhere else because we've never met him, we've never seen him. At any important events on our campuses, he has been invisible. I was surprised to learn that he lives here and has lived here for 1.5 years. Nearly every interaction that our community has had with our superintendent these past 5 weeks, echoing the words of previous speakers, has been characterized ultimately by a lack of truth. From the initial email response we received from him out of the blue to the parade of coffee meetings, we've received half-truths, non-answers, and I personally felt more like I was listening to a politician rather than the leader of the community that I know and love at Great Hearts of Monte Vista. When direct questions were posed at our meetings, no real answers were given, and we were fed pre-rehearsed talking points. It was infuriating. It was disrespectful. I felt the same kind of disrespect that our teachers have felt. It was disappointing and it was disheartening as a parent. We want truth. We love the truth. We want to dialogue in the truth. We want to live in the truth. We don't want pop culture. We don't want pop psychology, pop education, or pop politics. Deal with us honestly. We don't need to be handled. Our teachers don't need to be handled. We need honest, open dialogue so that we can work together to continue building something great, something worth protecting for future generations. I'm thankful for 15 to 17 years of labor that have brought us to where we are today, and I'm very concerned that that might come to nothing in the next 10 to 15 years. I want my grandkids to be able to have the same education that my kids are having today, or better. We need a leader with integrity who is committed to honesty, who earns the respect of the headmasters, the teachers, the families, and the students that he supports, and one who is deeply connected with the culture of our schools in order to lead us forward. There is a disconnect today, and that gap has to be bridged for us to have a healthy community. Give us a leader who loves truth, goodness, and beauty, who exhibits the same strength of character as any one of our new graduates, who loves the curriculum and the great books as much as we do, and we will gladly follow. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Andrew. Billy, did you have something to add? All right.
She told me what to say.
Thank you. Nicole?
Thank you for your time. My name is Nicole Glow, and I have 5 children at Great Hearts Monte Vista, ranging from 2nd grade all the way to 11th grade. And I'd like to thank Dr. Stongen and Mr. Kindle for responding to the numerous, hundreds, I was told, of letters from parents and students by offering coffee chats to us. Almost 6 years ago, we were becoming frustrated as we looked for a good education for our upcoming 6th grader. The middle schools just were not challenging him enough. So we immediately were drawn to the philosophy of Great Hearts, Texas, which is stated in the charter. I'll read word for word. The world is ordered and knowable. Truth exists and should be sought. The highest purpose of education is to form the soul. The students long for clear expectations and rigor. Students must be nourished by the high culture of the West. We were in awe. We were like, are you serious? This is a school? We immediately signed up, and the only person that didn't get in on the first lottery was the one we wanted them to get in. Poor kid. But after the coffee chats that you guys offered, thank you, I was still left with many questions I did not feel were answered. I decided the best way to gain clarity was to pull out the charter that had originally made us move our children from about a 5-minute drive from our home to almost an 80-minute commute with morning rush hour traffic. Imagine that with a newborn. And then back home again. Once again, I was amazed and had a sense of appreciation for the charter written for Great Hearts, Texas, a legal document. On page 28 of the Great Hearts Charter, as I found it, it states, quote, parents, teachers, and community members will be active members of the Parent Advisory Council, which takes a role in important decisions. My frustration here today is, where is this board? Because there's no advisory board, no place for me to go when I am fighting with hundreds of other Great Heart parents to get my voice heard to the board. So I'll begin here today. Finances. Simple questions. What % of the money is going to corporate offices? How do you plan to financially support the many schools you hope to open? How do I know my community investment is only staying at my child's school? Mr. Kindle, you stated your investors trust you at the coffee chat I was at, and that's fantastic. But what about the parents who have stopped their community investment pledge? When will you reach out to them and regain their trust? Where are you seeking investors to help you finance future Great Heart schools that you expect to open? We would like financial transparency. We are a public charter, not a private school. This poor communication has created a division amongst teachers, parents, and the board. The Parent Advisory Board was written into the charter. Why has it not been implemented? We're getting ready to go on our 5th year at Monte Vista. So where do I go next time when my voice isn't being heard? Do I file a formal complaint with TEA? Hope not. Just to let you know, teacher salaries last year, starting pay in SAISD for a first-year teacher was $52,000. I couldn't find the exact amount, and I was not brave enough to ask one of our teachers, but I believe that's almost $16,000 less than a starting Great Hearts teacher. If our teachers are our secret sauce, as was the words from Mr. Kendall, do you know why they chose Great Hearts? Why they chose the pay cut? I'll tell you why. Because in the charter, it states, word for word, that teachers must fully embrace the school's vision of community of learning and of leadership. My children are known by those teachers more than a body filling a desk. They see my children's soul, and they see them wanting to see truth, beauty, and goodness. I encourage you all, board, parents, everyone, to reflect on how we can protect Great Hearts' vision and culture. Sorry. That is clearly stated in this legal document.
Alan?
I'm Alan, good morning, glad to be here, and this is good. It's painful, but it's good, right? And so I would ask you to consider the proverb that the wounds of a friend are faithful. We're your friends. Sometimes it may not feel like it or sound like it, but we're your friends. So I would ask you to consider, as others have, the fidelity to the standards that have been laid out for us as parents and students, exhibited by the leadership. I go back to the first concert that we attended at Great Hearts for our elementary school son. We were told by the teacher in charge, put away your phones, don't live through your video recording devices, be physically present in this moment, right? So with Andrew, I sort of have to wonder how much has the leadership of Great Hearts been physically present with us, especially those who are here. If you were physically present with us over the last several years, you could have come to our house where we were hosting the Beowulf-a-thon. And you have probably could have gleaned from that while you can teach someone the Socratic method in a month, you can't teach them to love Shakespeare or great literature in a month. They've either been formed to love that by the time they arrive, or they haven't. And that's not something you can sort of shove into a curriculum in a month's time to get somebody to buy into. And for us, that's really where the rub of this comes. Because when you consider questions of diversity, I wonder if you are missing the forest for the trees. And if you go to our classrooms, you will see that we have a great mix of ethnicities and religious backgrounds and cultural backgrounds in the school. So the idea that in the common parlance, Great Hearts is not diverse is just not true, right? But even if you stop there and consider things like the faculty, you're missing the forest for the trees, because if you were physically present and part of the humanities discussions, you would see that the diversity is baked into the curriculum. So as a thought experiment, I ask you to consider, what if you gathered Shakespeare and Dostoevsky and Plato and any of the great writers, Faulkner and Twain, and you put them all into a room and you had them look at us, right? We are people who are black and brown and white and Protestant and Catholic and Muslim and agnostic and atheist, but we're all people who are largely mobile professionals. Even blue-collar folks are mobile professionals. My clients don't have anything else to their name but often a cell phone with an unlimited plan, right? And we live into our phones. We live into our education through television and mass media. And we think that somehow diversity is having black and brown and white people who all live in the same city and cultural milieu and live into their phones and mass media entertainment. And that's diversity, right? And Dostoevsky and Shakespeare and Plato would laugh, because they are living voices in the diversity of the Great Hearts curriculum. And if you don't know that going in, you can't teach that to someone in a month. You end up devolving into the pseudo-diversity that our culture offers as a substitute for the collected wisdom of the past, which is to say that black experience is different from white experience, and they can speak into the same room, but a black man cannot hear the voice of a white woman and understand and reason together. And if you were physically present in a humanities seminar at Great Hearts, you would know that white Catholics and Hispanic Protestants and Asian agnostics can reason together through the great books. So I ask you and call you and exhort you to consider your fidelity to the standards that Great Hearts has laid out for us? Is the leadership physically present? Does it understand sort of the root of why we're here and what we are called to do in educating and informing our children? This, I think, is the reason why there is distrust and a lack of candor. That we, as parents, are seen, and I suspect teachers are seen, as yet another PR problem to be managed by standards that Great Hearts in the classroom would disavow. So I ask you and call you back to those standards.
Thank you, Alan, very much. Okay, the last one on this list is Rod.
Well, my name is Roger Krupart, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to address you as a board today. We began 4 years ago as one of the founding families at Great Hearts Monte Vista. Currently, I have a son who's finishing the 7th grade and a daughter who's completing her freshman year at Great Hearts Monte Vista. I also have a daughter who's graduating from a public magnet school that's called the Engineering Technologies Academy that's at Roosevelt here in San Antonio. Now, the reason I share that with you is we did not enroll our daughter 4 years ago in Great Hearts because she wanted to pursue engineering. Now, it would have been wonderful if Great Hearts had offered an engineering track that would have accommodated our family best. But we knew that Great Hearts was not focused on engineering because as we looked at the Great Hearts America website, it says that books and ideas of the Western tradition serve as a foundation to the Great Hearts program across all K through 12 grades. None of us here would walk into a tire store and want to buy a suit and then get angry when they didn't have a suit for us to buy, right? We know that tire stores sell tires. If I want clothing, I go to a clothing store. And what's happening right now is that there are people that are looking at Great Hearts and saying we want them to sell suits in a tire store, so to speak. They're saying that there are things that we would like to see Great Hearts do that they're not currently doing. But everybody who's enrolled in Great Hearts knows that the philosophy, the vision of Great Hearts is to have a classical-based liberal arts education that engages students in the Socratic method. They teach our kids to think and reason and engage difficult subjects. Some of the things you're being asked to change would be like putting suits in a tire store. Not only are there already schools here in San Antonio that offer some of the agenda and items and things that people are asking for, but it would also draw Great Hearts off of its foundation. The danger is it's going to dilute the strength of the Great Hearts program. Students and faculty will lose focus. They're going to be pulled in multiple directions. In your literature, under the pillars of a Great Hearts Academy, you say this: the greatest number of our students benefit when the intellectual and moral bar is set high in the classroom. Lowering expectations is an act of misguided sympathy, not of love and mercy. I know that y'all are in a very difficult position as board members and others. I have the privilege of pastoring a church here in San Antonio. It's a large organization, several thousand members, multiple campuses. I share that with you for this reason. I know what it's like to lead a large community organization that has a diversity of people and backgrounds, and those who definitely have opinions. People who are passionate about something they would like us to do, something they would like to see change. And in those times, it's very easy to hear those voices, those people that are asking for change. And I'll just share two basic leadership lessons I've learned. The first is to stay true to your vision. Your vision is the true north. It's the compass that you have. When you're in the middle of a storm and you can't see the path around you or what's happening, pilots are taught to trust the instruments. The true north, the compass that Great Hearts has, is the vision statement, the things other parents have already quoted from the charter and other things. The second thing that I'll close with is I've learned to count the yes votes. And what do I mean by count the yes votes? Well, again, it's very easy when there's a loud vocal contingent of people that are saying, no, we don't like something. And it's very easy to be drawn off only into that small group and to forget that the majority of people are voting yes. You see that in the thousands of students who are already part of the campuses here and the thousands who are on waiting lists waiting for additional campuses to open. And so rather than being drawn off into the no votes, rather than accommodating those things, now as leaders, you need to listen because we can always improve. There are things that need to be fixed and improved. I'm not saying not to do that. But I'll close by asking you as leaders to be courageous, to support the faculty and to stay the course that has been set. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Roger. And because you all did a very magnanimous job there in getting through your extremely well-formed remarks. We have some more time. If there was anyone who didn't make the list and would like to speak, you know, we could probably go another, I think, 15 minutes or so, and then spend the time to get through everything. Okay, maybe just form a line. Anybody else there? Because I don't have other names.
Behind me, girl.
Just kidding. Y'all be glad I won't be here.
We got your
We'll go, you guys got to self-ration here, because we'll go to about, I don't know, 9 or 11:25.
All right, I'll make this quick then. My name is Pat Daniel. I have a second grader going into third. He's so happy to be a big boy. And I got a couple of things I want to say. We are your greatest asset. Every parent inside of here, I think I can speak for all of us, when we read about Great Hearts, we embraced everything you wrote. We embraced it wholly. We trust you to do what you say you're going to do. But your writings say the teachers must wholly embrace it. When are you going to embrace it? You wrote it. And I am going to hold your feet to the fire because I ain't messing with my child's education. I want him to be as great as he can be. He wants to be president one day. And as a black man in this school, nobody speaks for me. I wouldn't care less if you hired a 2-foot troll with a unicorn sticking out of his head as my child, as long as that teacher loves my children as much as his teachers love him and as I love them. Mr. Kendall, you have been beat up all day. I'm not here to do that. I'm a very forgiving man. You have to fix this. You know what's wrong. You know what you did wrong. We spoke about it the last time we met. Fix it. So I make myself very clear. Fix it. And the rest of you, embrace what you have written. Because if you don't, what are we going to do? What are our kids going to do? This will happen again. We all embraced it. If any of us didn't like it, we would take our children out. But we chose to be here. And for those of us that don't want to be here, they need it.
We all concur with what the gentleman said.
Good morning, Superintendent Kendall and board members. Thank you very much for opening up this opportunity for us to speak. My name is Isa Andrade. Our family has been a part of the Great Hearts community for 3 years now. I'm the mother of 3 students. All 3 of them are at the Northern at Great Hearts Harvested North. I was just about to enroll them in North. I believe that every single person in this room has the right and the privilege to express their opinion, whether I agree with the way they disseminate that opinion or not. Today, I'm here to share my viewpoint on how the situation surrounding Mr. Thomas was handled. Quite frankly, I'm disappointed, and I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm appalled, and my list of adjectives could go on and on and on. As I was speaking with my husband and some friends, I mentioned this. If I were to have a public display of emotion or explosion on social media with my husband, who I've been married to for 21 years now, and I love him dearly, we never have had an explosion like that. But if we did, the first people I would go to would be my children and my family, to reassure them that my loyalty lies with them, to reassure them that I would fight for them and I would defend them and that I would do my best to keep our family intact. Because that's my job. I'm a mom. I'm a parent. I'm over them. By the way, I'm chewing gum. I was the girl who got sent to the office all the time. I'm a gum girl.
We won't give you a detention.
Mr. Kaufman's here. Just a fraction of my first impression. Would be my last. Okay, so it has been 6 weeks since this social media explosion. And I am just so deeply grieved, as I already mentioned at the coffee chat with you, Mr. Kendall, by the apology that you gave on April 19th. In that statement, you distributed it with your name on it. You are the superintendent. You said the assignment was entirely inconsistent with Great Heart's philosophy and culture, and you called it a clear mistake. I have to ask you, Mr. Kendall, do you even know our school? Do you know what we stand for? In our coffee chat on May 15th, it was stated that you took part in the creation of the Great Hearts Texas Charter, and you are obviously now a superintendent. So why didn't you use that statement on April 19th as an opportunity to explain, or at the very least mention, the extraordinary character of our classical liberal arts education, or our school's use of the Socratic method as a form of learning? It was an opportunity that you missed. Instead of standing up for the very school system that you lead, instead of explaining our pursuit of truth and beauty and goodness, it appears to me that you caved under pressure. You apologized. And you clearly did not stand up for Mr. Thomas, your teacher. You did not give him the benefit of the doubt before issuing that apology. That hurts. And it stinks. You have lawyers and communication specialists, public relation gurus, who should have been able to tell you that you don't ever apologize without knowing the facts. What you should have done is acknowledge that there are those with valid concerns. Every opinion does matter. And you should pledge to investigate all sides of the matter carefully. And you do commit to sharing the findings and the results. But unfortunately, your apology within the first 24 hours made our school, which every friend of mine knows, I'm a Lion, I'm a Great Hearts mom, it made me look guilty. And not just locally, not even statewide, this was internationally guilty. By association. Mr. Thomas, in the coffee chat, when I repeatedly asked you face to face, I sat right across from you and I asked you multiple times, what is the date that he would be returning to the classroom? You told me, quote, he wants to return after receiving training. There were at least 20 people in the room. Since then, I have done my very best to give you the benefit of the doubt and trying to confirm those words. But everywhere I turn and everyone I ask leads me to believe that what you told me face to face was a false statement. From what I've learned, Mr. Thomas never said that. So why did you say that? Why did you tell me that? And since he's back, which I'm very glad he's back, and the kids love that he's back, what training has he had, if any? Regarding the investigation, from what I've heard, this unhappy parent announced in a coffee chat that he has had daily access and conversations with you. This has happened since the day of the Facebook post on April 18th. And I am truly glad to hear that you are accessible to parents. That is not an issue for me. It really is not. I'm glad that you're listening because, again, all opinions do matter, and I appreciate that. What I'm astonished about is that I've heard from multiple people that it took you not just 1, 2, or 3, but 6 days for you to reach out to Mr. Thomas.
Ma'am, I have to ask you to pass the mic to others behind you because we're going to run out of time here.
I will do this quickly, I promise you. I don't understand how that can be impartial. I don't understand how that can help morale. I don't understand how that can help the investigation. In the meantime, the faculty and staff that this has already been stated here wrote 2 letters to this board since April 18th, and to my understanding, this board, neither the superintendent did anything to acknowledge the receipt of that letter or those letters, or to even meet with the faculty until after the coffee chats. That was nearly 1 month after the fact. How can that be healthy? How can that help morale? How on earth can that help the investigation? Finally, I'm going to ask this once again. I asked this in the coffee chat. Why on earth are our headmasters dropping like flies? What do they know that we are not being told? We need transparency starting 2 years ago. Not even last year, not even this month. We have 4 leaving this month. It's a shame. These are amazing men. Mr. Kendall and board members, this is unacceptable damage control, unacceptable leadership, unacceptable management. I expect so much better from this board. I challenge you to please listen to your faculty, your teachers, and the staff. They desire to teach in a classical liberal arts forum. Please listen to your parents.
Ma'am, I have to ask you to let others speak.
Last sentence. We desire our
You're
children.
well-formed, but they've gone on too long. Please pass the mic to the next.
Eight said no.
Okay, stand up for us, please. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Barbara Tavares. For those who haven't met me, I'm at the Monte Vista North Campus. Founding family, I'm a graduating senior, PSO president. When I'm not at work, I live at the school. And I'm one of those parents who want to get involved in my kids' school because I believe they're an extension of what my family is. And that's what I found here. So this is not to say that I'm not supportive of our teachers at all. I can't tell you how many times I spoon-fed, spoon food onto plates to keep their bellies full, et cetera, et cetera. What I do want to say is there is a point where there is an argument between employee and employer, and there is a point where parents can support their teachers, but I have real concerns about us trying to micromanage how you guys manage. And I don't want that to be seen as some kind of detriment to anyone who is supporting their teachers, but I'm cautious about making sure that I have a healthy distance. When my kids went to private school for many, many years, I never met my superintendent. When my kids went to public school and I was on the PTA board, I never met my superintendent, never saw him or her at any events. And if we hadn't had this controversy, I don't think it would be an issue. I know you guys are busy and you have corporate, responsibilities that need to get taken care of. I did want to say something else about having teachers that look like you. I have a son, for the first time in his life, basically, except for one or two that were coaches, he's had male teachers, and it's important. It's important to have teachers that look like you and come from your background. My parents here, I'm the first generation not to be raised in the projects on the west side of San Antonio. And I have had my parents hit in school for speaking Spanish. I've had my parents turned away at restaurants. But I've also had my parents know that education is important and made sure that it was available to us. My mother worked 3 jobs in high school. I paid part of my own tuition. So education is important. So I'm hoping going forward, if there is a growth in the San Antonio area, that you strategically place those schools where people can have access, transportation-wise. I mean, I live walking distance from Northern Oaks, but I drive to Monte Vista because our head office here. But not everybody has those options. I hope you're taking a look at schools that are on bus routes. I have my own cousin who I talked to getting in here, and she pulled her child out of kinder because they have 1 car, and they couldn't get it. So I'm hoping your growth will include those sort of things.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I'm so nervous because I hadn't really prepared to speak, but now I'm going to speak. My name's Yvonne. It's hard for me because I make a ton of great friends. I know I'm gonna cry. And my child loves Great Hearts. We love Great Hearts. We have no intention to leave. But there's some things, for me, my first year, I think one of the staff members thought I was the nanny to my kids. My kids were both, I married a Caucasian man, and they're like, oh, are you here to pick up with some of these kids or something like that? And I said, oh, I'm here to pick up them. Oh, are those yours? You're just taking them home? Yes, they're mine. They're still mine. They look blonde and whatever, but they're mine. So I get the idea of some parents wanting their kids to, or their teachers to look like them, or, for them to see. I totally am there. It doesn't mean I want to sacrifice quality. What I really think is it's an issue with recruiting, right? You can find people everywhere. You can find a ton of people. I have friends that are my own background, my own shade of color, that went to a classical education in college. That doesn't mean you can't find people that look like me. It means you need to get better recruiting practices, right? I don't want to sacrifice quality. So do not put someone that looks like me and they don't have the quality to teach it. No, then I'd rather have the fabulous teachers my kids have now. Don't change that. The other thing is, the coffee chats, actually, I wish you all had spoken less. There were so many people that wanted to speak that did not have the opportunity because you all responded to every parent speaking. So I would have much preferred maybe this forum at the beginning of a coffee chat to say, we're doing 2 hours of this and 1 hour of responses. Because there were a lot of people after me that did not get to speak. So that's kind of like that. The other thing is, chain of command, I've been through it. I'm going through it the 3rd time right now and ended up at basically a board level or a higher level than the administration. You want people to follow the chain of command? Have your administration respond at the lower levels. Then we don't end up here.